we started agriculture everywhere in the current warm period. That started about 20,000 years ago. It started coming out of the glaciation, and about 12,000 years ago it went above the glaciation level. So meaning the earth thawed, the North America thawed, and the Great Lakes were formed, and Northern Europe thawed. The forests came back, and that's when we started agriculture almost everywhere. And by starting agriculture everywhere, we stabilized the climate. We prevented the earth from going back to another glaciation in the current Quaternary Ice Age. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the temperature of the earth, and if I were to project it out into the future, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down for the last 3 million years, and then 10,000 years it stabilizes, and then it's going to stay there forever. Mm. Okay? And that reminds me of my internet connectivity chips. That's what they all do. They go between, they're searching for the right frequency, and then once they find the right frequency, which is the frequency of the other guy, right? There are two chips talking to each other. They have slightly different frequencies when they start with. And they alternate between the bounds. So we know that the frequency cannot go between these two ranges, cannot go outside this. And they go up and down, and then eventually they stabilize. So when I saw the temperature record from the ice core, it reminded me of my internet connectivity work, where the object was to stabilize the frequency. The same thing was happening here, is stabilizing the temperature.
So it's very fascinating to see all those things that have gone into this, getting to this moment.
Yeah. In the internet work, we were talking about locking. So locking the master and the slave, that's the kind of language we were using there. There's a master frequency, which means that chip says, my frequency is what you need to pick up. It's not my job to pick up yours. You pick up mine. So it keeps sending data at the same frequency. And the other side is trying to lock to this master. And once it locks, then both of them will have the same frequency, and then they can communicate. That's how we did the design. And here we are locking onto nature. Mm. And we have to lock onto nature and stabilize and know who we are, and create a civilization that's in alignment with nature. And once we do that, everything stabilizes in the Quaternary Ice Age. And the Ice Age is literally over. So our species is now able to get the Earth out of an Ice Age and stabilize the temperature for the foreseeable future. And Jim Hansen actually said this. He said, the Earth will never go back to glaciation as long as humans are around. He said that once, and I said, that's it, that's our role. The Earth will never go back to glaciation as long as we are around, as long as we are thriving on this planet. Because why would we let a mile of ice grow on top of Chicago?
Won't happen.
It won't happen, right? We are going to figure out how to stabilize it and maintain it. And then, we'll be in alignment with nature. It's like we are tuned to nature now.
In this chapter, you talk about, our thumbs. Why are our thumbs so important, do you believe, as humans?
Yeah, the opposable thumbs allow us to manipulate materials. It allows us to develop technologies. Other creatures are not able to manipulate materials as well as we do. So it's like the outer world, right? We can manipulate and create tools better than anyone else. And we needed to do that initially just to protect ourselves. So imagine that, she gave us opposable thumbs, and then she took away our sense of smell, our sense of hearing, sense of sight, or basically we got self-selected. Because we know from the fossil record that we were down to a few hundred of us at one point in time. About 70 to 80,000 years ago, there were just a few hundred human beings. So that's what the genetic analysis is telling us. All 8 billion of us came from those few hundred, from 70 to 80,000 years ago. So those few hundred human beings, had very poor sense of smell, very poor sense of hearing, very poor sense of sight. And he said, how come they are the ones who survived and not the ones who had better sense of smell? Or maybe the others had even worse, I don't know. Okay, but because we have this poor sense of smell and sight and hearing, and we don't run too fast, we don't climb trees too well, we had to build weapons to protect ourselves. And we could do that with our opposable thumbs. We had to create sharp objects out of blunt objects. So all those weapons that we created, that's the beginning of technology. So technology to me is an outgrowth of defense mechanisms that humans had. And now that technology has to be deployed to stabilize the life support systems of the earth. And we have all the technology we need now to do that. We have all the sensors and the temperature sensors, all the sensors for gases in the atmosphere, So we know we have all the things that we need in order to understand the environment that we are in. And we have to then figure out how to deploy the technology to stabilize it and maintain it. Maintain it on behalf of all life. Right? And that will end the Quaternary Ice Age. It's only if humans disappear that there is a potential that the Earth could go back to another ice age again, and another glaciation again. There's a potential. I don't know if it will happen or not. Okay, it's possible that the Earth may become Venus if humans disappear. So between those two, we have this midpoint, mid place where humans are around and we are stabilizing the climate and we're maintaining it. And that's ideal for all life if we did that.
It's really fascinating because Mother Nature, over could be millions of years, got us to this point by us spreading out, by the animals spreading out to where we are all over the earth, to then get us to that stable state. Like it's almost like billions of years have gone into where we are currently to go onto this planet B.
Correct, yeah. I imagine the Earth is figuring it out, saying, what do I need to do to stabilize this? Okay, this particular species. Yeah. I even imagine, whose Earth? I think of the Earth as other life forms, right? Meaning, if you were to externalize humans and separate them out from Earth, even though I say we are a part of Earth, we've always been a part of Earth. The intelligence on the other side is really all the animals and the trees. And so they are figuring out how to use this species to stabilize the climate, right? So I'm even thinking of, working with a friend of mine to write a story like that, They are figuring out how to use this species to stabilize it. You think you're the boss? So anytime you think you're the boss, there's someone over you, right?
Yes, besides the humans spreading out to get to this point, what are some of the other things that have happened to get to this potential opportunity for a stable state?
Humans migrating, and then the animals helping us, like the wolves becoming dogs. And I think cats are basically, they're just coming along for the ride. Whereas the dogs actively help us by they bark when they tell you that something is happening near you. They warn you about danger and so on. And the other animals, they helped us with agriculture to begin with. Right? So all the domesticated animals that we used. I mean, we think that we control them and we use them. No, they helped us. I look at it the other way. The animals are in charge. If you look at it as animals are in charge, they're helping us to get food so we can heat up the planet. And animal agriculture, as I say, is the leading cause of climate change, right? So we'll go into that later. So my analysis is showing that animals have been doing a lot of this co-work with us. And now they're trying to wake us up, saying, you don't have to be like a zombie, and keep going in the same direction, heating up the planet more and more and more. You can wake up, understand your role, and realize that to stabilize the climate, you have to start being kind to all life. You have to start being kind to all animals. You have to basically bring back the wild animals. This was a temporary phase where we killed wild animals off and we created this domestic animal growth, right? So it's like a growth of a few species. We just grew them like crazy. And by just not growing them anymore, not bringing them into this world to live a life of suffering, really, right? Why would you do that? And returning them back to the wild state that they were in, that will allow us to stabilize the climate and to maintain that. That's what the science is telling us too. To me, it's always been mutual work that we've been doing with the animals. So they are co-conspirators in this stability project, okay? So you have to acknowledge their role, thank them for it, and say, now we know how to maintain it, so you don't have to suffer anymore. You can go back to your wild state. Right? So the dogs can become wolves again, you know. So bring back the wolf and live in harmony with all of life.
That's beautiful. And it's interesting too, because there's so many videos and so much content coming out about the animals are clearly showing us to be more compassionate. I feel like at this time more than ever.
I have a couple of stories I can tell you, which is not there in the book, I think. Yeah, like the story of the Akashinga in Zimbabwe, where Damien Maunder observed that when you have men as the anti-poaching squad, the rhinos attack the men. But when you have women as the anti-poaching squad, the rhinos never hurt the women. Because the rhinos know the women have never hurt them.
Wow.
So you can live in harmony with nature, with the wild animals, if you don't go around hurting them. And why were we hurting them before? Because we were scared of them.
Yeah.
But now we have the technology to know exactly where they are. Right? If Google can track 8 billion human beings, we have the technology to track 100,000 tigers, or few 100,000 wolves, or whatever it is, a few million wolves. We can track them. We know exactly where they are, and we can avoid them. And we can make sure that they have their food, and they're living in a thriving environment. And we can stay safe without having to go around killing them. That's a way of staying safe. So we can build these systems, put them in place that allow us to thrive along with the wild animals without having to do lethal conservation.
Right.
Right. So there is a whole book on compassionate conservation, which explains how we can do that.
In this chapter, you state that life is once again seeking to increase in complexity in order to overcome the challenges. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, as the challenge is at the inner edge of the habitable zone, how do you thrive? Okay, how does life thrive? Over the last 3 million years, life has been going in and out of this thriving state. It thrives for a little bit and then it goes into an ice age where most of things are dead, right? You're all frozen. And imagine that, right? So if the temperature goes down by 8 degrees Celsius from where it is today, species try to migrate. When they migrate, they compete with each other. So they kill each other off. There's a lot of suffering that happens every time you go from an interglacial period to a glaciation. There's a lot of suffering. So we've gone through that suffering for hundreds of times, right, over the last 3 million years. And now Earth is saying, let's figure out a way in which you don't have to go through that anymore. So there's this temporary suffering that happened over the last 10,000 years, where animals were enslaved, humans were enslaved. We all went through this tremendous suffering. But in the process, we have built this technology. That will allow us to stabilize the climate and reduce the suffering going forward for a long, long time. So I say life fundamentally tries to find a state in which suffering is minimized. All of life, when you look at it, that's the way it works. And to do that, it had to increase in complexity. And that complexity is what we brought with technology. So
If
I'm
we
trying
can,
to tell a story in which we belong exactly as we are. There is nothing wrong. There is no one to shame, no one to blame. We are who we are. And all life, everything accept it as is. And let's move forward, knowing that you belong, right? Let's move forward to create a thriving planet.
that's beautiful. And the next episode is how did we heat the climate? So we'll check that out on the next one. Thank you all so much for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
This has been a podcast from Planet B, where tradition incorporated the compassion upgrade. If you haven't moved here yet, we thank you for visiting.
It's relatively short. Sorry for the confusion in the beginning. Any questions? Please raise your hand. And let's have a discussion. Go ahead, Rebecca. We cannot hear you.
Thank you. Okay. Hello. Since a lot of your data is from other scientists, James Hansen, a lot of people know about the ice ages and the Quaternary period.
Mhm.
Is it that they don't know that there's tools? I mean, they know that there are tools that we can use. Why aren't they coming along with the solution to this?
Oh, why are they not drawing the same conclusions?
Right, and are or is that questionable? I mean, it seems to me like this part of the science is not in question. That we've been in and out of ice ages.
Yeah, well, that's not in question among those who are looking at the ice core record and drawing conclusions from that. Some people don't believe that either.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
so it is, yeah, the data is there. But, scientists tend to be specialists at what they do. Okay, so um, some scientists are specialists at uh, interpreting current greenhouse gas emissions and what they're doing to the planet and so on. Some scientists are paleoclimatologists who are looking at the past record. Um, it's my specialty to be a systems engineer who puts it all together. And that's what I've been doing. Okay. So each one of us has our own specialty, right? And uh, so that's what I tried to bring. I'm just looking at all the data and trying to put together a story in which there is nothing wrong. Everything belongs exactly as it is. And as part of that, we are progressing further, right? So we are going to make the next step,
right.
take the next step. Yeah.
Since there's no other hand up, I'm going to go ahead and ask about the varying degrees, 180 to 300 parts per million, and
Hmm.
how many parts per million now are we? And in that
We are close to
400,
430 parts per million now.
430. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 428, I think, is the current, current atmospheric level.
Okay, so we're getting pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, Brittany has been pointing out that we are at the danger level, for life. Like,
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Ray. Can you unmute?
This is a very fascinating topic because I think a lot of people who really want the best for the world have a pessimistic attitude that humanity is the problem. We have that narrative that humanity is a virus and that we're the one species that doesn't belong on Earth. And you're going even a step further, I think, and saying that the bad behavior of humanity over known history, our wars, our bad agriculture, our deforestation and desertification was all part of the plan. We can forgive ourselves for those things. And I don't think a lot of people are ready to forgive themselves for those things. And they see their role as an environmentalist to fight for something that's that we've all got, we're all on the same page. This is a slightly different page. And there's people fighting for peace. And obviously this is something that we should be fighting for. There, you pointed out the important role of military technology. It's always been the first thing that we've done to create technology. You said it started with sharpening of sticks,
Right.
of a prey species. Like humanity was not a predator from the start. We're an artificial predator. But this artificial process, artificial has a word that kind of makes people go, oh, well, that's not as good as nature. But our artificial, our species that learns how to do things artificially, it has like such an important role to play, as you've described. So do you find that people are on board with this, or are we wired to be as pessimistic about the human race as possible? It seems to be one or the other. We're either pessimistic because we're active in trying to solve problems, or we're saying everything's fine and because we're not trying to solve problems.
Right, yeah. See, in my case, you know my story. You know how it happened to me. I was also thinking that we are the only species that doesn't belong on Earth, that we are the only mistake that nature made. Until my granddaughter looked at me, right, as a 1 month old, and basically convinced me that she belongs exactly as she is, that we all belong exactly as we are, and that I'm not telling the right story. See, everything you can, you look at the data and you can put together a story to explain the data, right? A narrative that explains the data. And based on that narrative, you figure out what the next step is going forward. Now, I started then, this was starting in 2010. I have been looking at everything under the assumption that humans are part of nature and part of the same perfection of nature as every other animal. Okay? Just like I didn't understand the elephant when I first looked at it, I didn't understand human beings when I first looked at it. So that's how I started looking at it. And then everything made sense. Right? So when everything makes sense, then you say, why won't you accept this story? But this is my story. This is the story, and I'm sticking with it, right? Saying that it is part of, we were given all these tools, and now we are being called to serve life, right? It automatically gets us to forgive each other and to move on, to move forward, right? Saying, yeah, whatever happened in the past, that happened, but this is where we are now, and this is what we have to do going forward.
Well, we're cleaning up a mess that we've created, but you're saying that it was a necessary mess. It was necessary.
It was a necessary mess, yeah.
For,
just
for
like the elephant.
Yeah,
just like the elephant breaking branches of trees was initially looked like a mess, but it is part of the same perfection.
I always talk about obsolescence, like was the industrial age legitimate and all the damage that it did and all the things that it did to our society? And now we've got this education system that was designed for the industrial age that we're not even in anymore. We're in the information age where we're still training our children like they're being prepared to be workers for the industrial age. Right. That's a case of obsolescence. So it wasn't necessarily wrong. It wasn't necessarily bad. It's maybe not good to make judgment calls of good and bad. It is what it is, and
Right.
we have an opportunity to do good now.
Yeah.
Be motivated.
Right. We have an opportunity to update everything so that it's valid for the current situation and helps us thrive going forward. Right. So as I point out in the paper, there are lots of situations where we have been stuck. There's a narrative lock-in. We've been stuck in old narratives. And we have already acknowledged that those narratives are wrong. It's not like, I'm just finding it out for the first time. A lot of people have acknowledged it. Scientists have acknowledged it. And so now once you acknowledge that the narratives are wrong, that they're no longer aligned with the truth, and we are still going along, that's just inertia.
Are there other systems that we need to move along as well? What I'm thinking of is the employment system that says that we must earn a living in order to live on this planet. We're not legit until we pay the master and make the billionaires more money.
That's the book I'm writing now. It's a guide to Planet B. It's about all the systems that need to transform and how would you go about doing that.
Thank you. See, Danny's got a hand up.
Sure. Go ahead, Danny.
Hi, thanks. I was just reading something published by the WMO and the UN in Optimist Daily, the UN Environmental Program, and let's see, there was another organization. Can't remember. I can't see what it is now. About signs of recovery over the ozone, the holes in the ozone. And they say that's a result of work that has or advances to reduce chemical pollutions that affect the ozone layer. Is that a benefit? Like, how does that benefit the climate crisis? Thank you.
Well, it's sort of, it was primarily about the ozone hole in the stratosphere, and the ozone layer in the stratosphere protects the Earth from ultraviolet rays. So if you just remove the ozone layer, then life will get cooked on the planet. Okay? So we know that. And there were chemical compounds that we were using for refrigeration, mainly chlorofluorocarbons, and they were causing the ozone layer to thin out, especially over the poles, and basically making holes in the ozone layer. So they called it the ozone hole. And then, we all got together and figured out how to change that. And I believe it got done right away because people were able to make money off of it. So it fit in the Planet A model. Okay, you didn't have to change any other foundations. You could just tweak something, and so that was a techno fix for that problem. So the ozone holes over the poles have been closing now at the rate of, I think, 3% per decade or something like that.
So what were people doing that were that you said it was a way to make money off of? Like, how did that work? What changed there?
Well, there was only one company that was involved in this. Most of the chemicals were being made by DuPont.
Right.
And that company the researchers there figured out an alternate compound that would act as a refrigerant, and that didn't have this property that it will go and create holes in the ozone layer. Okay. And so they saw that as an opportunity to sell new refrigerators to people. And so all new refrigerators now had to have this new compound. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
basically another novel entity, right, that we introduced.
Okay. And is there a different chemical in there that's affecting something else in the refrigerants?
So, and the downside of this new refrigerant is that it is a
Right.
very powerful greenhouse gas.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Close the hole, but heat us up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But it's not contributing a lot. It's contributing quite a bit of heating, but it's not anywhere near the impact of methane or carbon dioxide at the moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Rebecca?
Thank you. In chapter 12, you talk about when species, when we came about, uh, when we changed a lot, and you said something about the events in the Devsgard Oshart cycles and the rapid cooling of the Heinrich events with
Mhm.
the ice melting, and I've been thinking about the south the South Pole and the ice that's melting
Right,
there. And I wonder
right.
if you could tell me a little bit about more about those cycles, and are they? I don't know anything about them. I could go look them up, but I just wondered if you could say a little bit more about those cycles, and do they have any could they have an impact in the future, or is this just about the past?
No, it shows that things can heat up very, very fast or cool very, very fast, you know.
Okay.
I mean, these changes can happen very suddenly, and we are seeing that in the record. So I'm just saying, don't assume that it'll be the same slow pace, and there is no. This is what nonlinear feedbacks do. They can amplify suddenly, and this is and so action has to be taken by human beings also very quickly. Okay.
Right.
We also have the ability to change human engineered systems very quickly. See, once we recognize that it's human engineered systems that are in conflict with the life support systems of the planet, human engineered systems are something that we made up, you know, and we can always change them,
So
right?
if more ice shelf starts falling, that's pretty
Well,
fast, and it don't may not have to wait 100 years to see the results. But what
right.
engineering system can change once that happens?
I
That's
mean, we can change quickly, right? We can suddenly say, all right, so everybody is going to, cook whatever you have and give it away. Right? I mean, we can make sudden changes in our lives.
okay. Okay,
Yeah,
we can do that. Okay.
yeah, we can do that. So everyone, suppose our political leaders appeal to all churches to give away food, healthy food. Don't you think churches would do it? Yeah. If it's an emergency and we have to do it, they'll do it.
Hmm.
So I'm saying there are ways in which we can mobilize human effort and create whole new systems, human engineered systems that are in alignment with the life support systems of the planet. So once you know that you are in opposition, that you are in conflict with the life support systems, they say, why would you want to keep pushing it when you know that life support systems can change quickly? Like that Danskart cycle that we see it shows in a few years, it went up by like 8 degrees Celsius. Okay. Now that's local events, right? Things melted. Wasn't too much life involved in that because it was all frozen solid with the temperature changed drastically. Yeah.
Okay, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Georgie is right. He puts in the chat that smoking is an example of how habits can change quickly. Yeah. And I use my own example of how fast I was able to quit smoking, right? And let's not wait until our Mother Earth dies and then start changing our habits. Go ahead, Brittany.
It was kind of hard to understand the mass diagram in context to the mass extinctions on this planet, because I feel like that might help with understanding the context of it. Do you happen to have a diagram like that that coordinates it?
Yeah, well, you mean the total number of species over time, something like that?
You know about the mass extinctions, like this is like the sixth mass
Right.
extinction.
Right.
Yeah, the coordination of the CO2 levels over time with the mass extinctions, because just looking at the ups and downs, that isn't quite enough, because yeah, it was higher at certain points, lower at others, but it's like without seeing, well, how did it have an effect on the planet and species, it's kind of hard to understand.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a correlation with the CO2 levels that people can see. Maybe there may be actually. I know Richard Alley was working on that, but he was mostly working on correlation of CO2 with temperature. I don't know about mass extinction, but this is the sixth major mass extinction. There are lots of minor mass extinctions that have happened. Sixth major mass extinction event, and the previous five, you kind of have explanations for each one of them as to how they all happened, and but there was if you look at the number of species that have disappeared, this mass extinction is getting to be a major extinction. It's not quite there yet, because we are starting with a very high level of biodiversity compared to what was there before. Okay, so biodiversity has been increasing over time. And then you see a dip in the current era. But all previous mass extinctions, if you let it become a major mass extinction, the dominant species got wiped out. Okay? Even if life recovers, the odds of humans recovering or surviving through this mass extinction, if you let it continue, are slim. Because the conditions then change. And, if the Earth has to figure out a different life support system because this life support system got ripped up, it may not come back to this life support system that's good for us. Right? It may be something else. Like we have seen instances of creatures that used to live off sulfur, and then that became creatures that live off of oxygen. So you've seen changes like that, massive changes like that across a mass extinction boundary. So rather than continuing to rip up the life support systems and then saying, okay, the Earth will figure out another way of creating life, I'd say, let's try to repair this one as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think either way, humans are probably going to get through it. I would imagine, with technology, of I remember during the pandemic, people just had an expectation about how life would continue for them, where they think everything is coming to them, and that when it stops, it's like it's supposed to be going towards them, and they're like, this is not fair, but they never think of, well, what can I do to keep my life working and functioning and going? So then, I would put in my ideas, and then people would keep going. So it's just a matter of ideas. I could imagine people having. I know I live at a high elevation, but I know people who have a higher elevation, so they're kind of uh, one to show how it worked for everyone else. And what they do is they have oxygen tanks. There used to be the news articles where the uh, people in Ireland would sell jars of fresh air to, I think, people in India or something. I can't remember. Wherever there was a high amount of air pollution, that's what they
Right.
do. So it's like there where there's a will, there's a way. People are gonna find something. It's just really strange when people think, are especially harnessed because they are feeling they're at the top to think, well, we're so great, we should stay around rather than the animals. That's why it's okay to eat them. And so, but with the CO2 rising, as I said, with the sick building syndrome, we're probably not going to make it at a certain level because we breathe out CO2. And if
Right.
we don't have, if we can't breathe it out, it's going to be hard. So what's going to be left, according to that graph of yours, is the alligators. They're going to be, they'll be around, and we're just going to get wiped out. It's just crazy. So it's like contradictory, saying, "Oh, we favor everyone like humans," and then we're going to go against ourselves to favor the alligators. Like, do you think the alligators are probably going to make it when it's like over 1,000 parts per million and everything?
No, we don't want it to get there, okay? So this sudden change in CO2 like that, it's like the Earth having a fever, a sudden change in temperature like that. And when the Earth has a fever, we are all going to get cooked. So I don't know about alligators. Alligators may survive, but at some point, if the Earth's temperature keeps going up, then even alligators will die off, right? So
Well,
cockroaches will survive. Yeah, TJ is saying cockroaches will survive. Yeah, they're like our ancestors, right? They've been around for a long, long time.
so I sent you an email about the sick building syndrome. What did you
Right.
think about that after reading it?
I mean, I didn't
In
realize that,
regards to, yeah,
yeah,
the what you're talking about. Mhm.
no, I didn't realize that even 600 parts per million is considered toxic for human beings.
Yeah, I was reading up about Canada where they recommend nothing more than 440 parts per million, and we're so close to that. And that's
That's,
just the
yeah,
recommended.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. 440 parts per million is so easy, right? Because you're already close to it, 428 or whatever. And then you just, if you don't have good ventilation, you're going to breathe it out. You're going to convert oxygen into CO2 and you'll be in an environment with more than 440 parts per million.
yeah, if you look over time, and that's why I got confused about the numbers earlier.
Hmm.
Before, when the outdoor ambient CO2 levels were lower, and this was just the 90s. That's not that long ago, because I come from the 90s, so I'm not too old. Back then, they allowed the buildings to have over 1,000, and it was,
Hmm.
you might get sick, but you go back to when it's like 300 and you can recover. So it's based off of an amount per period of time, usually over a period of maybe a day, an
Hmm.
hour. Um, so if it gets to be something pretty high, like in the tens of thousands, that's only for a few minutes.
Hmm.
So over time, because the CO2 levels kept rising in the atmosphere, they had to keep lowering the levels that are acceptable in buildings because you can't recover. from high levels. If you don't have an ability to remove it from your body, it just like sits there and then accumulates over time. So now I was reading the recent article saying it should be at ambient temperatures what's inside of a building. And I was talking to the AI and they say we're usually always in buildings. So it's like we're just having this CO2 accumulation with us. Maybe we're used to it because we're in buildings all the time that we can handle it, or maybe we don't even notice because we're in buildings. We don't notice the effects on us. I don't know. Either way, it's like it's just the obliviousness. It's like what do you make of it? Where whenever I hear talks about some major issue like climate change or veganism, it seems like in the narrative there's always something left out that people aren't even thinking of. That's just getting people to ignore the severity of the problem. And do you think that's kind of like stopping everything from being worked on or anything like that?
Yeah, it's stopping people from recognizing the emergency that we are in, and therefore having to take immediate action. Because we have to take immediate action. I've been saying it's a fire. It's like a fire, and we have to address it as if it's a fire. By just turning our attention to one thing and then talking about one particular way of solving that, you're just trying to make that into a money-making venture within the current model. And that's how it's always framed for people. Even though this danger is building up slowly, and you don't know whether you've gone past the point of no return. So, no, I mean, I saw the articles you sent, Brittany, and I thank you for that. I didn't realize that we were that close. Yeah.
When I was in class, I was like, wow, this is a problem. Like, what about it was even in class, they were like, I was like, what about the CO2? And they're like, not paying attention to the CO2 in the atmosphere. It's kind of funny. Even when people know that it's not like they're really minding it. So, yeah.
Right.
But I was going to say, I do have heard about the temperature to CO2 charts. So if you ever get the ones that have the mass extinctions on it, I'd love to see that one. That would be so good.
Yeah, it's actually you have to put two of them together.
Yeah.
Because we have the temperature to CO2, and then we also have to put the mass extinction events together and see what happens.
It would be amazing to see. But yeah, that's all I got for questions.
All right, thank you. Okay. So thank you all very much for being here. And please come tomorrow for episode 13. And both morning and evening, we're going to be playing that.
Thank you, Dr. Rao.
My pleasure. And please tell everybody to come along, because this is a very important series that we are doing.
The house is burning, but we're still sitting in the glow. Phones charged, lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. Put out the fire. Ooh, put out the fire. Metafoodians rise. This is your power. And here in India, one truth stands the same. Milk is not just milk. Dairy feeds the flame. Cows and methane. Fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air. Every block of butter is a forest repair. It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire. Put out the fire. Echoes and rise. This is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt. Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire. Put out the fire. Metafoodians unite. This is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. Every oil-free bite is a river turning clean. This is not perfection, it's direction. Not pressure, but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire. Ooh, put out the fire. Echoes and rise. This is your hour. Metafoodians unite. Metafoodians ignite. Sharing love in the meta zone. Light in the path to a cooler home. Put out the fire. Ooh, put out the fire. Together we rise. Together we